rather big focus tonight. Political parties made big promises before this election began. Everyone saying that they were committed to the women's reservation bill that has been pending for years and years. At the same time, also promising to give more tickets to women. But finally, when you look at the data and you look at the number of candidates that parties have announced so far in most of the phases, we do now have candidates for, you realize that out of more than 1,200 candidates that have been announced across parties, there are just 157 of them that are women. So that's just about 7.8%. And when you look at the party-wise breakup, you'll see that as far as the big national parties are concerned, like the BJP and the Congress, women candidates form just an abysmal 12% of all the candidates that they have announced. It's about 12.4% for the BJP, 12.2% for the Congress party. The party that actually does lead in giving women the maximum number of tickets is the Trinamool Congress at 40%. Remember, the Trinamool, along with the BJD, had made a promise that they were reserving these number of seats for women candidates, and it seems that both the BJD and the Trinamool Congress have followed through on that. We'll bring you much more on this data that Ashoka University has brought for us, but let me first bring you this short interview I did with the TMC's Derek O'Brien earlier today on just this issue. Well, Derek, the data shows that a mere 7.8% of women candidates have been put up across parties. The TMC standing out with tickets to more than 40% of women. Is this lip service by other parties who keep talking about women reservation and keep making big promises?
Well, the BJP, though, not only haven't they given candidates, women candidates, they have like 10%. We all are ready to pass the women's reservation bill. So they're not ready to do that. They blocked the women's reservation bill. The first thing this new coalition government, where we will be a part of, when we come into power in May, June 2019, we will pass that women's reservation bill. And as far as the other parties are concerned, I think we had 35% already in Lok Sabha. And let me tell you, not only have we given 41% women candidates, you can expect out of the 17 candidates, looks like 16 will win. I hope all 17 win, but they're good candidates in good seats where we are in a strong position.
Well, what is also interesting in the data that we have, Derek, is that of the 148 women candidates so far, 90 of them are actually from political families. That's about 61% of them. What does that tell you then about the way our political parties are approaching giving tickets to women?
Yeah, sometimes they probably look at it as lip service and see, you know, instead of putting the spouse there, you put the wife there. So that can be the case. But having said that, there are lots of people in Parliament who are daughters or granddaughters or daughters-in-law of famous political people. I don't think that's a disqualification. So I think we need to keep an open mind about that. You see, I only believe that Trinamool believes there are only two types of candidates. There are good candidates and there are bad candidates. But our women candidates are not just there for lip service. They are great in Parliament, they're great at the constituency level, and I think the most important part of candidates or putting up candidates is there has to be that unity and diversity. You look at the list of Trinamool 42 candidates for Bengal or the 14 candidates we are putting up in other states, there's a wonderful mix, and that's the diversity which is important. And I also think, Nidhi, that when we have women's issues in Parliament or even television programs like yours, men should be speaking more on women's issues because we are the problem.
Well, I don't disagree with that. That is a good point. But finally, Derek O'Brien, what are the biggest myths, though, about women candidates that you would dispel today?
Myths about women candidates. Well, let me tell you, the one woman candidate I know, she's not a candidate for this election, but she's the only woman who is the Chief Minister of India elected. If you follow the pace she sets, 16, 18 hours a day, well-researched content, a lot of energy, good messaging, connecting with the crowd, fabulous. Mamata Banerjee is right up there, and there are many of my colleagues in Trinamool Congress. I don't want to name one person or two. Many, they do serious research. They take care when they speak in Parliament. Number two, they take a lot of care in their constituency, you know, and they work very, very hard. So it's wonderful to have more women in Parliament, And the only party which I'm so proud of, and thank you for inviting me here, 41% women candidates. We'll try and do the same thing for the assembly elections. And of course, in Bengal, local panchayat bodies are already 50%. So Trinamool, we don't only make this into lip service, we also make sure it's more women power on the ground, because, you know, we come from the land of Ma Durga.
All right, Derek O'Brien, thanks very much for joining us. That dramatic flourish. But it is actually good to see a political party like your party and the BJD taking the lead as far as giving tickets to women is concerned. Gilles Verniers, columnist, assistant professor of political science at Ashoka University, joins us. He's put this data together. As we said, the Triveni Center for Political Data at Ashoka University has managed to sort of bring us this picture of where women candidates stand. What in this actually surprised you? I mean, I'm sure it doesn't surprise you that parties by and large have a very poor track record when it comes to giving women tickets, but there are some interesting data points that one does pick up. Take us through those.
Yeah, of course. So I think the first pleasant surprise were announcements by parties like the Trinamool, but also the Biju Janata Dal to increase substantially the number of tickets they gave to women. We heard, you know, about the Trinamool. The BJD has fielded a third of its candidates as women candidate. There is actually a small party in Tamil Nadu, the TNK, that has fielded half of its candidates, 20 out of 40 that are women candidates. So these are positive surprise. And this follows some announcement that some state governments would also implement the women reservation bill at the state level. That was also a pleasant surprise. I was expecting more parties, maybe naively, to follow suit, but the realization is that the numbers are, you know, very conventional and in the following of, you know, the low level of representation that we have seen in previous elections. We've seen the Congress, the BJP at 12%. This is actually less than what the Congress did in the previous elections, and they remain really reticent in fielding more women candidates.
Pawan Khera, why is that? I mean, Rahul Gandhi spoke about, reserving government jobs for women, 1/3 of government jobs for women if the Congress came to power. Why is it so difficult then to give women tickets?
Not just government jobs, but also assemblies and parliament seats. I think the Congress has always believed in institutionalizing reforms. Let's not forget, when we as a democracy were born, we brought the universal suffrage for women also, unlike many countries in the West. In America, for example, women had to struggle for 80 years to get suffrage, just the right to vote. So, and let's not forget, in 2011, August, I think, we were the ones in our government, we brought reservations for women in panchayats and local bodies, 33%. So, we believe in institutionalizing reforms rather than randomly giving a ticket to a woman here and then next election giving it to a man there. No, that's not the way it can be done in a country like India. We have to bring reforms that are here to stay.
What's the big deal about, I mean, you can begin the reforms by starting by a very basic thing, which is to give tickets to more women. I mean, if the Trinamool Congress can do it, if the Biju Janata Dal can do it, if this party from Tamil Nadu can do it by giving 50%, why can't the mainstream
national
parties do it?
Is a valid question, except that you're asking this question to a party which gave the first woman prime minister to this country and several chief ministers, women chief ministers to the country. So, we have more tickets to be distributed. You will see our numbers are bound to go up.
Okay, well, let's see if they jump dramatically from 12.5%. But Lalita Kumaramangalam, are you disappointed that the BJP's number is also very low? The BJP and the Congress are the same. It's about 12%. As someone who's been the chairperson of the NCW, you speak out very strongly on women's issues. Would you have wished that your own party would have given more tickets to women? Ms. Kumaramangalam, can you hear me?
Nidhi, again, I'm not able to hear you too well, but yes, I heard the last bit of your question. I certainly do wish that not just my party, but all parties across the board, except perhaps the TMC and Biju Janata Dal, the BJD, would have given much more tickets to women. We need women in politics, regardless of the politics of politics and political parties. Women should be given more of a chance. After the reservation that Rajiv Gandhi brought in the panchayat level, it has been shown statistically that women-headed panchayats have addressed the issues of people and families, like education, like health, and they have not neglected infrastructure also either, which is often a fallacy that's given as an excuse for not electing women. Also, women are not ignored by voters. Actually, if you look at data for the first election of India right up to today, you will see that women voters have been, women candidates have been elected with a greater majority and than men. So, it is not that when women are made candidates, the electoral votes do not go to them. Basically, the brutal truth is that we are a very, very patriarchal country, and this extends across the board. I do not like playing politics on this issue, because I have always said that the moment politics comes in and we start saying tu tu me, it is actually the representation of women that suffers in politics above the panchayat level. We have something like 13 lakh odd women in the panchayats today in India. Many states have increased reservation, as you know, from 33% to 50%. Not all these women are panchayat pradhans, but the surprising thing is that the percentage of pradhans in country who are women in India, who are women, are over 50%. It is about 52% now. Now, the same thing can happen if reservation is brought in. Unfortunately, every time the bill is brought in, somebody or the other blocks it. Whatever the various excuses that may be given, at different times, different parties play exactly the same game. It is just a very, very, very patriarchal field. And I think you have seen over the last few days in the campaigns just how across the board women candidates have been targeted in a very filthy manner.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's really unfortunate.
Campaign.
As a woman, I'd like to say that yes. In fact, I was one of the people who said that when Priyanka Gandhi was brought in, that she should have been brought in much earlier. All parties across the board, Nidhi, we need to pay attention to the women voters. If you see data that comes in, especially from the south, you will see that women voters actually vote more. The number of voters registered is greater in women, and the percentage of women who come out to vote is more in women in the south. Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and then strangely enough Rajasthan. But women voters have still not really in the north learned to come out and vote and prove that they are also a part of the voting population that parties must pay attention to.
These are excellent points that you made, ma'am, and I'm going to take that to the panel here as well.
On their own,
then
perhaps more and more candidates will be who are women.
But the point is actually, Smita Prakash, and I'm going to ask Jeels about this as well. I mean, Pranoy's book also talks about this. There's a whole chapter on women voters and how, you know, since independence, you've seen this dramatic jump in just the number of women who turn out to vote. And ironically, we have the situation where there is this reluctance to ultimately give women tickets. I mean, Pawan Khera spoke about a larger thing about reform. But why is it so difficult for parties to just act on what is a basic thing, which is ticket distribution?
See, it's quite amazing that the regional parties have taken a lead in this. I think, as data will show, between BJD and Trinamool, they have taken the lead on this. At the lower level, at the panchayat level, they have taken a lead in this as far as women participation in politics is concerned. But they fall off the ladder. They fall off at the ladder in the mid-level. Women politicians do not break that glass ceiling, and it's not at the ceiling, it's at the mid-level. This is what we see even in the corporate sector. You know, for women to rise up really at top, they just give up somewhere in between because the odds stacked against them is so much. Now comes to the main parties. I think the stakes are so high for the two leading parties, the BJP and the Congress, that they both are going to see winnability factor. And when it comes to women politicians, if the winnability factor is not there in a candidate, whether a man or a woman, it doesn't make true. Now, the second part is about this whole thing about dynasty, you know, that wo kisi ki bahu hai, vi kisi ki beti hai. What about the men? The men are the biggest ones, you know, who take advantage of dynastic politics. It's the women who are, you know, aspersion is cast on the women politicians that they are somebody's bahu or beti. It's the men too. But somehow it's that the women are mercurial in their temperament. They are angry all the time. They don't smile enough. They don't dress properly. It's always on the other factor rather than what they do.
But that's a good point, because Jeels, your data also actually does separately look at, and I pointed that out in the beginning, you know, about dynasty. So why did you feel, or women from political families basically contesting, 61% of the candidates who are women are actually from political families. And why did you feel that that was important to sort of separate that and highlight that?
Because it illustrates the selection biases that party operates. I agree with the statement that Derek O'Brien made earlier that we should not cast aspersion, and the condition through which women get into politics has very little bearing on what
How
they can
perform.
actually, what they perform, what they can achieve later. And we should not cast any aspersion on men or women on that account. But it's revealing of the biases that political parties have and the doubts that they have when it comes to fielding women. The research we do show that the political parties are basically led by 6 different kinds of myth. You spoke about myth earlier also, that they're still guided by the prejudice and the perception that women are weaker candidates, that they are less experienced, that only elite women can perform, that women cannot be effective politician, given the hard work that it represents, that women are voiceless proxies for male relatives. And sometimes they say that we would love to field more women, but we just cannot find the candidates because they're not showing up. We can debunk all those myths statistically with data. We have data that shows that all those myths one by one can be debunked, that there is absolutely no reason to think that women, actually in some states like Gujarat, they tend to outperform men. Consistently. A lot of candidates actually come with a lot of local experience from panchayat and municipalities, not enough to my mind, but quite a lot actually do.
So you think the winnability argument is one of the biggest myths? That we're giving
prejudices of political parties
Yeah.
is the single greatest obstacle to women representation. And whenever you look at women contesting, there is no reason to think that they actually make for weaker candidates. The results are there to basically show
Pawan, do you want to
that
take
parties
that
are the obstacle.
I don't agree with the entire tenor of our discussion, because we are treating political parties as though they are from Mars or Venus. They come from the same society, carrying with them the same prejudices of a society.
Patriarchal society.
Patriarchal society. And if you're giving examples of the South, situation is better because society there treats women better. There's no doubt about it. Gujarat is a great example.
There are
I agree with
lesser
you.
women in the South.
Yeah,
politics.
no, but they are still more active. They get more chance, and I agree with Smita that there is a particular point beyond which they cannot rise. So this is how our society looks at women. So when I say institutionalizing a reform, that's what I mean. Let's try and spread the reform down below to the society, and that's how political parties will also be forced
But Pawan,
to.
by the time that happens, it'll be 500 years. So someone has to
we
take the
are-
lead
of
now.
Course, of course, as a party, we took a lead when we started when we adopted the universal franchise. Obviously, political parties must take a lead, and in that we should be together in it. We don't have to sort of, as Lalita ji says, do tutu meme about it. I agree with her.
Well, there was another interesting data point, Gilles, which was that I saw in the data you sent us, there was also an interesting graphic on how if women are elected to office, it's not necessarily that you would see certain indices, especially related to gender issues, improve. I mean, there's a myth that women actually govern necessarily better, and that's an interesting thing that
because
popped up.
Again,
Or worse, right? I
Or
mean,
worse,
yeah.
exactly. But that again proceeds from a set of prejudices that confine women to
Only those issues.
women roles and women
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
If you look at women voters, their claims, their demands are across the range of any political issues that you can imagine. It's jobs, it's access to opportunities, and it's not just free sanitary napkins or gas connections.
Yeah.
And so there is no reason fundamentally to treat women candidates or elected representative any differently. And this argument that we need more women to bring more probity into politics, I find it also problematic, because it comes to a certain misogynistic statement. It's basically saying that we need more women to clean up the mess that men have created, right?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Well,
Because,
first-
it's not just, if I may, sorry, it's like, for example, it was always considered that HRD ministry lady ko dete. Textile ministry lady ko dete.
Women and child development,
Women and
lady
child
ko dete.
lady ko de dete. This was his thing. And now you have women in the CCS. Whatever Pawan might disagree
No, we
with.
also had a woman in the CCS when Indira Gandhi
When-
was there.
yeah,
so,
okay.
So
We did
let's not-
today. See, I knew this would happen. There
No,
was
if
that
you knew it, you shouldn't have said it then.
1 second where Pawan agreed with me. But anyway, to get back to it, that it does feel good. I'm not again talking about just a political party. I'm just saying that at some point of time, tokenism is also necessary along with every aspect of this.
Well, maybe, but Lalita Kumaramangalam, finally to you, do you think that the only way you can get your party leaders to listen, and Shaina NC of the BJP has been very vocal about this as well. She's been talking about this for a while, about the need for party leaders to listen to what women candidates are saying. Do you all need to speak up more and say that we need to be heard? Ms. Kumaramangalam, my apologies for the audio. Can you hear me?
Nidhi, the fact is that, Nidhi, the fact is that however much you may talk to party leaders across the board, the fact is that women themselves sometimes are their own, are other women's worst enemies. There are many reasons why women are not able to make it to the top in politics, and that has nothing to do with their competence or the fact that they may or may not come from dynastic families. Because, the opposition leader himself is from a dynastic family. So, that's not the point at all. I don't think that's important here. The fact is that men should stop feeling threatened. And as Pawan Khera says, surprisingly both of us agree on this one point. The fact is that we need to bring this sort of change about by bringing in the Women's Reservation Bill. There's been a huge change in the panchayats. Everybody agrees on this today, despite Sarpanch Pati still being around, etc. It will take time, but if the reservation bill is brought in, then you will see an enormous number of very competent women from across the board who will come into politics and change the face of Indian politics. And I think it's time that that happened.
All right. Well, Jeel, you get the quick last 30 seconds.
Yeah, so,
very precious.
Here's a piece of data that should help put things into perspective. Currently, India ranks at the 149th rank in the world in terms of women representation.
Out of 193 countries.
Out of 193 countries. And I know a lot of people are sensitive to cross-border comparison, but Pakistan is 91st, Bangladesh is 93rd, Afghanistan is 54th, Nepal is 48. Only Sri Lanka is doing
Pakistan ranks
worse.
at 91 and we are 149.
That's correct.
On representation of women.
In national parliament.
In the national parliament.
And things are worse at the state level.
Yeah. That is something. In fact, we have that graphic as well, and that is something exactly right there. Okay, Pakistan at 91. Well, thank you to all of you for joining us, and Jeels, we'll continue to track as subsequent phases, whatever is left, to see what the overall picture is. Who actually gets elected? That will be interesting, I think, on the 23rd, post the 23rd, to see how many women are actually out of these, elected to the new parliament. Thank you to all of you for joining us. See you again tomorrow. Goodbye.